Well, we might as well stick to Mizuno here and cover this. So this is probably the most interesting shoe I've ever worn, and certainly the most interesting shoe probably on the list today,
Yeah.
which is the Mizuno Wave Rebellion 3. This shoe, it was funny. I was looking at the just the specs on it, and on their website they have it listed as like a 40 millimeter to, I want to say, like 34. I think it's or no, 36. It's got, they advertise it as a 4 millimeter offset. You look at that shoe and you're like, this thing's got to be like a 40 millimeter offset. and it's that I kept digging, and then I'm like, okay, well, now this says it's got 61 millimeters, and then my head's like, well, how is it legal? And then, it says it's legal, but 61 is nowhere near legal. It's 50% above legal, and for like World Athletics performance stuff. So apparently, with the regulations, I think it's, if I remember right, 12% is the measurement point from the very back of the shoe. So if you want to get creative like Mizuno did, you just cut the back of the heel off until you hit that percentage margin of the shoe, and then you just add a bunch of extra cushion there. So as far as World Athletics is concerned, it's like, depending on who measures it, between 39 and 40 millimeters. But if you measure that thickest part of the shoe, it's up to 61 millimeters. And that just creates an interesting dynamic. You put that shoe on, and the way I describe it is when you're walking, you kind of have like a heel to forefoot movement. When you run, most people start moving up to the midfoot and forefoot, usually as you go faster, closer to your forefoot. When you walk in that shoe, it's like kind of like on stilts almost.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I've never worn high heels personally, but I
Right.
can imagine if women are wearing high heels, it's kind of like a similar experience. Yeah, like you're not going heel to toe, you're just forefoot, which when you're walking feels very awkward. When you're running, it doesn't feel as bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to walk around like to the start line in that shoe, you're like, oh my god, this is this is unnatural.
It's a little unnerving to the degree where, like, if I just put it on my foot and didn't know what they were trying to do with it, I'm not sure I would get it because of that. But it's the type of shoe where the faster you go in it, the better it performs. And I think when I wore it the first time, I just put it on for a run. I wasn't going to do a workout, and I just wanted to see how it felt. And I felt a little awkward at it, kind of getting into, like, most of my runs, I start out kind of between 7.5 and 8 or something like that. And I like work down into, depending on what type of run I'm doing, start dropping under 7 at a certain point. I noticed as I was getting down into kind of the mid 6s, that's kind of around where it started feeling like it was working with me versus maybe working against me a little bit. And then when I took it to the track and did some actual like speed work in it, I was like pretty surprised at how well it performed compared to just what I'd been worn historically. It definitely has that kind of super shoe efficiency boost that you're going to be looking for in a shoe like that. But whether or not it's something you can take for a really long race, like, I don't think you'll see me running 100 miles in it. So there is that side of it. But yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I remember the first time I put it on, I think I sent you a text about it because it was, the first 10 to 15 minutes, I mean, just right. I didn't, it was right out of the box. I put it on, and I wanted to do like a tune-up workout in it because I was racing the Houston Half Marathon, I think, in a week or so, and I was like, oh, well, if these end up working out, like, I might actually like try to race in these. So I did, I think, like a easy warm up, and then I did 3 miles at half marathon pace, and then a cool down. And that warm up, it was like 15, 20 minutes, and I was like, oh, this is weird. It was like 7.5 minute pace. After about 15 minutes, it started feeling a little bit more natural, even at that slower pace. But then again, when I switched over and started running like 5:20, 5:25 per mile, it felt really good. And then, yeah, so it definitely takes a little while to get used to, but it definitely has that, like you said, the super shoe efficiency, a little bit less pop than, say, like, I haven't run in all the super shoes, but like the Alpha Fly. When I'm wearing that, you can like almost just like hear that plate rebounding when you're running very fast. These didn't have that kind of feeling, but it actually gave me the propulsion. So it was like, it felt a little softer. It didn't feel as responsive as the Alpha Fly, but it certainly I was getting the performance boost. So running at that pace like felt like it would, the effort was slightly lower than, what it should be. So I definitely felt that I was getting that performance boost, maybe even more so than, say, like an Alpha Fly, just in terms of like each step felt like a spring. They're a little bit softer than I would have liked, though, in terms of, I prefer something a little more a little more supportive, a little more stiff, even in like a super shoe. And these were just like very, very, very soft, especially at those fast paces. So I did that workout in them, and then a couple weeks later, I did another workout. I didn't end up racing in them, which I think was a smart choice. Doing 13 miles and trying to run fast in those, having not really given myself time to adjust, I think was kind of the right call. I may have regretted a little bit, but a few weeks after that, I did another 1,000-meter repeat kind of workout. So I was running, that like 5 minute to 5:05 per mile pace. Felt really good during that one too. So they're certainly, they're doing what you look for. They're helping you, run faster during workouts. The biggest thing for me, which almost would prevent me from saying these are kind of part of my racing or workout arsenal, is just the instability. I mean, they're, especially at the ankles, like just very unstable. I mean, when you're running straight, it tends to be fine. You said you did your track kind of long run workout in them, but when I was turning, I was doing a little loop in my neighborhood and just turning even pretty wide turns and just getting a lot of instability, especially kind of my weak point is like my right. I'm a little bit less strong on that side. So just my ankle and even looking down, just caving in on every stride. And it didn't feel any soreness or pain afterwards, but it just did feel a little bit unstable. And I almost felt like it held me back a little bit from pushing harder because I didn't want to felt like my ankles were just going to kind of crumple in. But other than that, I mean, a great shoe. It was very comfortable. The lacing, again, I think it was, it doesn't have the same kind of upper as the Neo Zen does, but very comfortable. I didn't get any blisters or, lose any toenails while I was running it. But so overall, a great shoe, but the instability is kind of the part that gets me. But like you said, definitely one of the more interesting shoes that I've ever run in.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the Ferrari of running shoes.
Totally.
It's like it's got a purpose and it's great at that purpose, and it doesn't really. It's like the opposite of the Neo Zen, where it does one thing and it does one thing really well, but that's about it. And it was funny because, like you said, I actually got really curious, and decided I'm going to take it on for a track long run. And I did a 20 miler in it, and I was noticeably faster. Like I think I averaged like 6:17 per mile pace. At an effort that would have normally produced about a 6.5 minute mile. Right. Heart rate data kind of confirms that. My perceived effort confirmed that. And I did do a little bit of a fast finish in that particular session, and it just felt like it was even coming. It was like easier to glide into that type of. So I think if you're going to try to negative split a road race or something like that, that shoe might be a really good option for you. But, it is a narrow shoe. It is very... its stability and turn radius are going to be a weakness for it. So my big toes both got just butchered from that run. I lost both my big toenails after that one. So I don't think it's going to be something I could probably use for a 100-mile race. Maybe a marathon if I really used it enough to get comfortable in it, and the course was such that I was comfortable that it wasn't a bunch of hairpin turns and things like that. One thing that does save it a little bit on turning, because one thing I noticed, because I used it in some track workouts too, and kind of this 1K loop that I got kind of nearby the house. And I did notice that as you start getting more comfortable in the shoe, just from using it more, you feel a little more comfortable getting aggressive with the turning, even though it feels a little less comfortable to do it at first. And part of that, I think, is the outsole on this one, I think, is also top notch. I think they nailed the outsole on it. From just a grip and a durability standpoint, it kind of has these little almost rubber knobs, and on the track surface it just kind of grips it really nicely. So I felt like when I would really get up to speed, as long as I just trusted my ability to lean into it, I felt okay doing it that way. I might have been working my ankles really hard though. It's hard to know where the failure point would be if I just kept going to failure, because I try not to do workouts to failure. Races I do. So that's the hard sell always, is if you're going to take a race to failure and your workouts aren't, there's going to be some guesswork as to what's going to fail and what shoe product too. But yeah, I think that one is something where great for maybe short endurance races, probably less turning. I think it probably performs really well on wet surfaces with that outsole. Maybe not sharp turn wet surfaces, but generally speaking, I think it's an interesting shoe. I'll be curious what they do. There's one thing I wondered, because that shoe weighed, I think it was 7.7 ounces. And when you look at super shoe weights, the top tier ones, they're usually dipping down into the mid sixes. ounces. And I think some of the upcoming ones are even getting under that now. I want to say, isn't the Alpha Fly 4 going to be like under 6 ounces?
I think so. I think they said it was their lightest ever.
Yeah.
I just saw a post from Nike or somebody the other day, but yeah, it was maybe 5, mid 5, low 5 ounces.
So like this one's at 7.7, and that, again, full rubber outsole. I love the rubber outsole on there, but I don't know why you put a full rubber outsole on that shoe, because you're not going to hit anywhere other than like some of these upfront spots.
Right.
So the first thing I would do is I would shave the rubber at least off that like heel portion that comes off the ground, because you're never using that side. So, I mean, you could put something there that has like a tacky surface to it, but you don't need to protect that the way you would with like a rubber outsole, and you could save some weight there, I think. And you could probably get really creative and carve out pieces of rubber on that shoe that you're just rarely going to ever hit because of the purpose that you're going to use it for, and maybe get it closer to some of the weight ranges that you're seeing in some of the other super shoes that it's trying to compete with. I really wish you could take that shoe with that 61 millimeter bulb there and test to see, okay, how am my efficiency with this at like race pace, and then have that same shoe but maybe 50 millimeters. Because if you get the same efficiency there, you can save more weight by, instead of having that 61 millimeter spot, 50 now. I mean, who knows? I don't know. Maybe they're doing that stuff in their prototype testing and stuff like that. But it's that. Those are my thoughts, I guess, about it.
Yeah, I almost wonder. Like, I'm not certainly not like a total heel striker, but maybe less of a forefoot striker, maybe more of a midfoot striker. I almost would feel a little bit more comfortable if I had a little bit more maybe of that heel.
Really? Okay.
Be willing to like
further back or more
further
cushion?
back.
Oh, yeah. I see. Yeah.
A little more cushion, and even having the heel maybe a bit further back, I think I would feel probably a little bit more comfortable and stable. I think part of the instability for me especially comes from I'm changing my biomechanics. If I'm in another super shoe or something, I'm not, because it's allowing me to hit more towards maybe the back, which I tend to naturally do. So yeah, I think that would, for me, I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously concerned about getting the lightest shoe possible, but I'd sacrifice a little bit of weight for stability and a little more confidence in my ability to push and be aggressive in those ones.
Yeah. The other thing, I think I texted you this when I first tried it. I was like, I don't think my Achilles tendon even works in these shoes. It like just kind of does that job for it.
Yeah, it's taking over. It's like an external Achilles tendon for sure. Yeah, I think I would love to eventually do a race in these. I think maybe if I do some more training in them and feel more confident, I will. I think for me, it would be like the perfect half marathon shoe. I think for a marathon, I want something that's a little more durable maybe. But I mean, Boston's point to point, who knows, maybe I'll end up wearing them for that if I can get pretty comfortable. Like, no hairpin turns that I know of in the Boston Marathon. So it'd be interesting. I don't know, maybe try them out for that.
That'd be cool. Yeah, we'll test them out and find out, because who knows, what if you end up being like a percentage and a half more efficient in those than the Alpha Flies, and then you're like, okay, I got a decision to make now.
Yeah, I actually think I'll have to go back and look, but so I've been training using the Stride pods, which give you some data, and I've been coordinating with the guys at Stride. They've been analyzing some stuff for specific shoes, and I do think that the Wave Rebellion, it gave me a little more leg spring stiffness, which is just one of the metrics that those pods are measuring. So, you want more leg spring stiffness. That's kind of like you're getting more return. And I think of the 2 runs that I've done in those, they had analyzed it and looked, and it gave me a little bit more of that leg spring stiffness compared to, say, the Alpha Fly or some of the other shoes. So it's just an interesting data point. I don't, have enough to make a conclusion yet, nor do I know like what, oxygen uptake and stuff is. But
we'll get
kind of an
that
interesting
figure
data point for sure.
This, I would say, like, in closing for this one, in a perfect scenario, you warm up in a different shoe, do your workout in this shoe, cool down in a different shoe.
Spikes, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
For a track.
Like spikes.
You're not going to warm up in your spike. You're not going to cool down in them. You're just basically going to do the work that you need to do in them, do your, the tool, and then you just, take them out and put them back in the bag.
Cool.